Let's talk about pith. Do you know what it means to be pithy? It means to be very precise, direct, concise, but meaningful. That's pithy. Public speaking combines numerous skill sets. You need to be skilled at actually delivering the speech. You need to have at least some expertise about your subject. You also need to be a philosopher, so you know how to construct an argument. And of course, you need to be a writer, so you can write your speech. But how do you do that? How do you write a speech? Well, step one is to pick a topic. Now, often the topic will be obvious or given to you. If you're speaking to the Home Builders Association, you'll probably be speaking about home building. If you're speaking at the dedication of a new library, you'll be talking about that. You may have some latitude in precisely what you'll be talking about, and in the case of a classroom speech, the topics may be wide open. The standard advice you get from writing coaches is that you should write about what you know. The idea is that if you stick with what you know, you will have more confidence, more detail, and you can truly pass yourself off as an expert. Okay, sure. It worked for Hemingway. He wrote what he knew about, but then he had a lot of experience to draw. I've also heard people say that you should write what you don't know. You see, you may be too close to the things you know to be objective. If you write about what you know, you may have a cynical attitude toward it. But how do you write about something you don't know? All of your writing has got to come from your own brain. Where else can it come from? So it's virtually impossible to write what you don't know. So perhaps you should write about something you've discovered, something that you found to be important and true. It may be something simple and introspective, or it could be grand and dramatic. It could be something you've researched, or something you've experienced, or something you've devised in your own mind. But it's your own personal discovery. You will be driven to tell people about it if it's your own personal discovery. Hey, guess what I found out? Now, having said that, you should anticipate that your speech will be a little egotistical. That's the nature of public speaking. People have come to hear you speak. They want to know what you know. So don't be afraid to assert yourself. The audience wants to know what you've discovered. Even the most basic informative speech should be more than reading an encyclopedia entry. The facts must be selected and put in your own words. The facts must be arranged so that together they drive to a point. Sharing your knowledge is what this is all about. On the other hand, remember that you don't have to tell the audience everything you know. This is particularly true if you're speaking to novices. If your audience doesn't know anything about your subject, you want your topic to be narrowly focused. To speak in broad generalities may not be useful, but to speak in excruciating detail will be tedious. If you speak on a very narrow topic, you can engage your audience. Also know that writing something that will be spoken is different from writing something that will be read. It's crucial to be as lean in your writing as possible. This is more like writing poetry than prose. It's difficult to get long, complex sentences out of your mouth. You could write something like, have you ever read that classic Leo Tolstoy novel about Napoleon's invasion of Russia in 1812 called War and Peace? Or you could say, ever read War and Peace? I know the first sentence had more information, but the point is that you don't always need all of that information when it comes to public speaking. If your audience is interested in Russian literature, they'll already know that the novel was written by Tolstoy and what it's about. Being concise, brutally concise, helps you cover more ground in less time. It is critical to keep writing simple, direct, and focused on the objective. Further, you absolutely must read everything out loud. Sometimes people feel self-conscious about this. Forget it. You can't afford to be self-conscious. You have to practice getting the words out of your mouth. This also helps you stay within the time limit of your speech. It may take longer to say these words than to read them. And remember the white space. That's what artists call it. You don't have to speak every second. Well-placed pauses, even very long ones, will give the audience a moment to digest what you just said. The world doesn't end if you stop talking for a moment. This doesn't mean dropping the energy flow or just checking out. Don't think of this as a simple recitation of words. Your speech is more than words. It includes your physical performance and your visual aids. So think of it as writing a script and not a speech. You really don't write a speech. You give a speech. It's like a house. You don't live in a blueprint. You live in a house. The blueprint is just the instructions for how you'll build the house. You don't write a speech. You write the text of a speech. In the end, you probably won't be reading the speech word for word anyway. You only want to do that if it's a very formal address or if it's an official statement to the press, where precise language is necessary. In fact, it takes real talent to be able to read from a script or prompter. It takes years of practice to do it well. For beginners, it's best to memorize the speech or speak from notes. Think of it as a performance and not a recitation. Just the same, it will be useful to write the full script first, so that your speech is simple, focused, and direct. It takes a lot of practice to be a great speech writer. It's a real art. So just go write, go practice it. But be pithy. Very, very, very pithy. Well, I should have just said pithy, because it's not pithy to say very, very, very pithy. The very, very part. But that wasn't being pithy, but you get the point. So just be pithy and not very, 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 very pithy. But pithy, that's the pithy.